sends shivers into our spine. Slavery in all forms, whatever connotation it takes, is not something we entertain or we encourage. And that's how we'll be looking at this topic. On the tablet, you'll have it in the text form as well as the PowerPoint, to make it simpler and faster, I will be looking at the PowerPoint. I'll be delivering from the PowerPoint so that if you want the full text, you can turn to pages 60 to 67. So I'll take you through to the PowerPoint. Right. So, Mr. Chairman, this morning we are looking at the topic, the 21st Century Church's Response to Human Trafficking. And I'll be looking at it from this outline. What definition do we give to human trafficking? What are the key words used in the definition? And how do we come to set it within our own context? Then we will look at the features of human trafficking to bring more meaning and make it relevant to our cause. Then the diverse forms of human trafficking. What are the causes or some of the causes? What figures do we have from the bodies that are dealing with this evil? Then what does the Bible say about injustice? And I believe that this morning's devotions sets us in line, and I will not maybe dwell very much on that. Then the mission of Jesus and the mission of the church. What is the church's responsibility? The church's response to human trafficking. And then we will conclude. So going to slide 5, we have a full definition from the Palermo Protocol, UN General Assembly 2000. That's the full definition, and you can see the words that are used there. Recruitment, transportation, transfer, harboring, receipt of persons, not goods, but persons, by means of the word threat, force, or other forms of coercion, abduction, fraud, deception, abuse of power, or of a position of vulnerability, or in the giving or receiving of payment, benefits to achieve the consent of a person having control over another person for the purpose of exploitation. Exploitation in all forms, minimal or maximum or whatever. Exploitation, other forms of sexual exploitation, forced labor or services, slavery or practices similar to slavery and servitude, or the removal of organs. All of these will be explained further as we move on. But I want you to take note of the words that are used there: recruitment, transfer, transportation, harboring, receipt of persons, coercion, threat, force, deception, abuse of power, and all that. And that is it. So, to break it down, you can say that human trafficking may be seen as the buying, selling of people, trading of human beings, or for sexual slavery, commercial sexual exploitation, and forced labor. It is centuries old, but remains a modern-day problem of significant proportions. It is a wide-ranging practice encompassing men, women, the young, that is boys and girls, used against their will to perform labor and sex, enter into marriage, and to provide organs. That's then slide 7 gives a summary that's simplified. Human trafficking is the recruitment, transportation, trading, harboring of a person for the purposes of exploitation within and across borders. So it could be within a country, or it can be across borders. They can move from Ghana to Burkina Faso, or from Ghana to Nigeria, Nigeria to Ghana, or from Ghana to South Africa, from Ghana to East, everywhere. It can be cross-border and it can be within. And we'll come to see all these things. And so we come to the features. What are the features? So that we'll come to understand them the more. It is a crime that exploits vulnerabilities. It is a crime that exploits vulnerabilities. So people who are vulnerable are at the greater risk. But something that can affect us all. And it feeds on world events. It feeds on world events. And that's what we see on slide 9. Disasters, wars, disasters in every form. Famine, earthquake, tsunamis, as was mentioned this morning to us. When people are forced to move, when people are forced to migrate, when people are forced to leave where they are and have to find ways and have to find another place to live, they become vulnerable, and that forces them to be trafficked. The conflicts that we have, when we had the conflict in Liberia, we have people moving from Liberia and coming to Ghana to live in camps over there. And in living in somebody's country without knowing anybody, anything can happen to you. Migration. These days, we talk of people moving, especially from Africa, to see greener pastures. How do they go? What are they going to do? And all of that. These are things that are of concern, but sometimes we think of just greener pasture. Is it indeed green or it's brown? That's what we should understand. Unemployment can force people into human trafficking or modern slavery. Gender inequality where we place one against the other and we think that, for women, their place is the kitchen. Women, they have no place in society. So selling them or pushing them into forced labor, all that doesn't matter to us the more. Inadequate education, that's also a factor, and we need to look at it. Refugees, migrants, minority groups, women, children, people experiencing extreme poverty, they become what we call the special vulnerabilities. And all of these are with us, and we need to look at it. One other feature is that anyone can be at risk of being trafficked. Anyone. So just don't look at it as if it's for a special group of people or a special kind of persons who can, any one of us, even as we sit here, because as I mentioned, it trades on vulnerabilities or world events. If something should happen in Nigeria here, or happen in Ghana, and we are asked to move, or we are forced to move, and sometimes you see these men and women carrying their mattresses and their blankets, and their heads are following. Where are they going? Where are they going? And they fall prey. They fall prey to some of these things, and we have to look at it. And when it happens that way, you are subject to removal of organs, and then you see yourself on the streets. Come to Ghana, and you find these people from the Sahel region. Their children, their mothers are on the streets begging. The mothers are hiding under the trees, and the young ones, little as 3, 4, 5, they are those standing by the roadside and begging for alms, and they are easily victims. Then illegal adoptions. They are forced into marriages. They participate in armed combat and commission of petty crimes. They engage themselves in such things. And that is what we have. Human trafficking happens everywhere. I've already mentioned that it can happen anywhere under the sun. Anywhere. The phenomenon is hidden in plain sight and is deeply intertwined with life in every corner of the world. Widespread worldwide that in some settings it is even referred to as an epidemic. As an epidemic. Each day people are tricked, coerced, or forced into exploitative situations that they cannot refuse or leave. Modern slavery and human trafficking are global issues and not unique to one nation or community. So we have to take note of this feature, that it is with us and it is with all of us. Human trafficking has huge financial implications. Maybe we have not thought of that, because when people are trafficked, others gain. Those who buy, sell, it's for money. It's for money. And we'll come to understand that they come in and they are also used for cheap labor. Such people are forced to work, they are coerced, and they do all kinds of jobs, menial as it were, with very little reward. All of these. And sometimes even governments are into it. In some places, it's government that is government to government. And so people moving, and they come, they work under duress without even thinking of how. So it is estimated that $150 billion annually is going into human trafficking or modern slavery, which is a very serious thing we need to look at. Human trafficking is abuse of power. And Gary Hoogan, the International Justice Mission, he says, the abuse of power and exploitation of the weak by the strong. That's how you can even define it. The abuse of power and exploitation of the weak by the strong. It's a process by which people are recruited in their community and exploited by traffickers using deception. It is the conflict between powers and vulnerabilities of people. Conflict between powers and vulnerability of people. And this is something of great concern that we have to look at. What are the diverse forms of human trafficking or modern slavery? Understanding what trafficking looks like is essential to prevention and solution strategies. If we understand it, and we are going to look at 6 of the forms: forced labor, debt bondage, familial child trafficking, organ trafficking, forced criminal activities, and the lover boy sex trafficking methods. These are the various forms that modern slavery or human trafficking takes in our system today. And when it comes to forced labor, it is when we are put into a job that you have not given your consent. You are forced to do it, whether you like it or not. Whether you like it or not. And these things, when they happen, our minds go back to the slavery days of the people of Israel, when they were forced to work, to make the bricks, to work and work and work. And it is estimated by ILO that 27.6 million people are into forced labor. Most are in the private sector. 6.3 in forced commercial sexual exploitation. Sexual exploitation. 3.9 million, that's part of the statistics, in forced labor imposed by the state. And hotspots for forced labor, in some areas, it's in the agri sector, in the domestic work, construction, manufacturing, and the entertainment sector. They might be creating these entertainments for us, we are enjoying it, but have we found out under what conditions are they working? And sometimes even in agri, the work that they do, the banana, the cocoa, the cotton, the coffee that they are producing for us. And I can use one example from Ghana in agri, where children are forced and sold. They are sold into this slavery to do fishing, Young as 5, 6, their parents sell them, and they are taken away from their homes to the Volta Lake. And what happens is that they are tied to heavy metals or wood or blocks, and they go down the river to mend the nets, and sometimes they don't survive. And when they don't survive, they are happy, because that is when they'll get more fish. And that's it. That's the kind of thing we are talking about here. So it's something we need to understand and then look at seriously. Then we are looking at debt bondage. Debt bondage is a form of trafficking that burdens people with debt they cannot pay off. Because you are in a foreign land, you don't have money, you are going to borrow from the trafficker, and then you are there in servitude forever. You are there forever. There's no way you can pay off your debt. And so you remain. And it happens most especially to migrant workers. You are vulnerable. People are exploited, experiencing poverty. Children can also fall into such prey. People without a good education, they can also fall into this criteria. Yeah, so that is debt bondage. Then the familiar one is the child trafficking. We know in poor communities and finding it difficult to feed their children, they sometimes want to do away with some of them. And they might either sell them or they just dish them out and give them out to people and say that, oh, take him away. And they come with all kinds of sweet words. Oh, we're going to give him job to do. We'll send him to school. We will do this to him. He is going to be so and so. So parents readily also giving. And by the time the children realize they are into slavery of all forms, especially the girls. They are then put into brothels for sex. They are put into some work which they have not thought of doing. And 66% of these are girls. Kids of all kinds are trafficked for sexual exploitation. They are trafficked. Cases involve family members. And the sad part is where parents sell or engage themselves in such crimes. Kids from poor areas are most at risk as children are forced to work. Then we have the organ trafficking. Organ trafficking. The demand for organ transplant has always surpassed supply. Such creates a market for illegal organ trafficking. And some people are lured into places, and at the end of the day, they are killed and their parts are harvested. We harvest their lungs, their hearts, their kidneys, their liver, their whatever, and it is sold. And it is said that it is very, very, very lucrative. And you can see slide 19, which is talking about the organs that are trafficked, and this is from ILO, and the places that they sell, these organs. So you are sold out, and your organs are harvested and giving out. Then there is the forced criminal activity. That is where the traffickers will use those who are trafficked to commit crimes. And when they are arrested, or let's say they are asked to carry the drugs, and when they do and they are arrested, their masters run away. They run away, and that is what it forces them to do. Then the last, not least, the lover boy or the Romeo or lover boy method. And this type of exploitation involves a trafficker grooming and manipulating a victim into an intimate relationship. And it's not just that. They can also put you into sex exploitation, and they can manipulate you and make sure that you cannot run away, because they have all your videos, they have everything about you. So you cannot talk, and you are forced into it. So these are the forms. When it comes to the causes, we have mentioned. Slide 24 is a summary of the causes. And the causes from poverty, lack of education, patriarchal norms and stigma, influence of religious and cultural norms and practices, crises including natural disasters, social-political instability, irregular migration, conflicts, epidemics, gender roles, and all that. All of these, in detail, tell us that they cause people into, or force people into these kinds of modern slavery. As we engage in wars, as we engage in conflicts, as we engage in poor education, people are not educated. They cannot be employed, and so they are forced to migrate from the rural areas to the urban areas, and they come as porters. Those who come on their own are exempt, but there are some who are brought into the cities by their mistresses or their masters. So they work for them. And the same can happen to people who are trafficked outside to UAE, to America, or to Europe, and they work for such people. They work for them, and you cannot have your freedom. They open the bank account, and your monthly salary goes into their account, and they will give you a pittance just to live on. And these are some of the things. The statistics are staggering. I've already mentioned some of them. The statistics are staggering. 50 million people are living in modern slavery or have been trafficked around the world. 26 million people are in forced labor, victims of 136 different nationalities detected by ILO. Trafficking for the purpose of sexual exploitation accounts for 58% of all cases detected globally. 22 million people are in forced marriages, and those who are at risk the most are the women and the children. And you can see the global prevalence. You can see it on slide 27. Then when you come to Africa, the global, that's from the statistics tool, you can see estimated number of people in modern slavery is 7 million. Forced labor, forced marriages, and other forms, apart from those who are going to other parts of the world. It's a concern. It's a concern to the UN. It's a concern to all of us. And so they also take a survey of which governments are taking actions on them. Some are not bothered at all because they believe that it brings them income. It brings them income. And they arrange with government to government that platform. But they don't follow to see what happens in the receiving countries, what happens to those who are traveling. They think that, oh, they are going and they will be giving jobs as nannies, they will be giving jobs as drivers, construction workers, masons, and artisans. But at the end of the day, they get to the destinations, their passports are seized. Their passports are taken away from them. And when that happens, then you are in trouble. You are in trouble. So, fathers and mothers, having looked at this modern day slavery or human trafficking, the transportation, the harboring, and coercion, and being forced to do things, and harvesting of human parts for sale, and all that. This is an injustice. This is an injustice of the highest degree. And what does the Bible say? I need not belabor that because this morning the devotions ushered us into it. The scripture contains many explicit commands to do justice, as we find in Micah 6:8, and to seek justice, defend the oppressed, take up the cause of the fatherless, and plead the case of the widow, Isaiah 1:17. When you come to the Old Testament, you take the Torah, you have issues there. The Mosaic Law is replete with examples. And you take the prophets, then you take the Gospels. I think this morning we have been ushered into what? The same do we find with the mission of Jesus and the church. As we read about his work, about his salvation he brought to all of us, bringing healing, bringing life to dead situations, and taking people out of their weird situations. And that is where we see the church. And we need to also So how do we eliminate the problem, to take away or reduce it? It's a complex problem, challenge, such as modern slavery. And its forms require cooperation among all civil society, faith leaders, government, and businesses. No one government or institution or faith can fight it. It should be a connection. It should be a partnership. So as faith leaders or as the church, what is our role? We need to engage with our communities to address the drivers that fall within our area of work, such as cultural norms, understand and communicate the risk involved in suspicious opportunities that could lead to modern slavery. So these are the works that we have to do. The church's responsibility, the church has a bigger responsibility to follow the clear commands of Scripture in executing justice in society. To do nothing about the plight of the vulnerable would effectively be collusion with the brokenness of creation by allowing the victims to continue suffering and dying. That's where our theme comes in very, very handy. That if we sit unconcerned, if we just look on as faith leaders or as a church and let this continue, then we are not helping to create the world which will be a better place for all to live in. And then we will be adding to the brokenness in society, which is not within our domain. We have to seriously rise up. The church is God's vehicle to usher in shalom into the brokenness and oppression in the world. For the church to credibly announce that God is God and that his new world has begun, it has to be actively involved in seeking justice in the world, both globally and locally, and cheerfully celebrating God's good creation. And that's what N.T. Wright also tells us, to rescue from the corruption of injustice in society. Without the active interaction with the brokenness around us, our proclamation remains merely a shadow of the glorious gospel we have been tasked to share. Methodist social responsibility is useless unless it touches on the brokenness of humanity to repair. Unless it touches on the brokenness of humanity to repair this injustice. And as Methodists, our preaching and social action are empty if it does not bring hope, if it does not bring life, it does not bring meaning to life situations of our hearers. And so that is where the challenge falls on us to come in. And in coming in, fathers, mothers, Honorable Chair, we want to look at the specifics. One area is where we are looking at faith leaders in the communities. Faith leaders in Africa, faith leaders in our connections, faith leaders everywhere. What role do we have and what can we do? Why do we single out faith leaders? The relevance of faith leaders and faith communities. Here in Africa, many of our people will travel and they will come and tell their pastor, Pastor, I am traveling. And you pray for them. You pray for them. Do you take time to ask, where are you going? And what is it that you are going to do? Who gave you the invitation? And what is it that is ahead? Because it says, I am traveling outside, we are happy, and we take that as a breakthrough. We take it as a breakthrough without doing due diligence to find out what exactly. Yes, some are genuine. Some are genuine as they come and tell us. Some will even not tell their parents, but they will confide in you as the faith leader or their minister. And when that happens, will it be a bad thing to dash their hopes and say, no, this travel is not good for you? But we'll say, oh, it's good. Let us thank God this lady is going outside and will soon be a bintu. And so she will come home with all kinds of, especially those traveling to the Middle East. They come with horrible stories. And we hear them, we see them. They come with the stories. So we play a key role, a key significant role to avoid some of these things. And that is why this slide is giving you all that it takes for you to stand up and look at it critically. And to look at it critically, yes. So the church's response to him, the church has a bigger responsibility to follow the clear commands of Scripture, and that we have to be very, very, very up and doing. So what is it that we can do? Our response to human trafficking is put in these forms. Be the prophetic voice of transformation. And we have talked about it, a revitalized Methodist movement for the transformation of Africa's social, political, and economic landscape. Be the prophetic voice of transformation. The church's purpose was made clear in the words of Jesus, to be the prophetic voice of transformation in the world. The church must recognize that it was first and foremost established to bring the transformative news of God's rescuing justice to the world. That one, we also have to keep hope alive. The church must continue to engage issues such as human trafficking. We should not play the ostrich. We should not close our eyes to this evil. It is slavery. And you remember our revered father in faith, John Wesley, one of his last important letters was to William Wilberforce to make sure that this crime was away from the face of the earth. It is slavery. We have to get engaged in the work. The church has historically been at the forefront on social issues that seek to empower the society in the area of education, hospitals, orphanages, feeding the hungry, and the abolition of slavery in some parts of the world. This is another area we need to stand up, we need to get up, and we need to get involved. 2, Methodists in advocacy. We all aware. I need not belabor this point. John Wesley and many early Methodists. Yesterday we heard from Reverend Manga how the Methodists played their role in the liberation of the people in our independence struggles. And we have done that over the years. It is now time to also stand up to this evil which is on the ascendancy. The Methodist Church playing significant roles, and this is where we need to also stand up. The advocacy role at our conferences, coming out with communiques to challenge and to make sure that this crime is eliminated from amongst us. We have to also do career counseling. Career counseling. The church must encourage young people towards careers that will help protect and care for the abused. I'll come to that later. Careers in law enforcement and law are obviously a natural fit, but there are numerous other vocations that can help bring justice. How do we guide the young people in our schools, in the Sunday school, in the church, wherever? How do we guide them and help them to come out of this and then get them engaged in profitable educational ventures? That one is something that we need to look at seriously. That is for the career. And advocacy, we have talked about advocacy. Then the education. Education. Within the church, there is a need to intentionally teach the biblical foundation for justice and God's view of women. God's view, that is where we are targeting women as not necessary or not good or what? Not giving the right place. It is the church's role, the church's responsibility. And the church must encourage men's group to talk about this exploitation and violence, and then make sure that children are given the right places that they belong in society. We need to stand up as the church. Then we can also look at it from the ministerial formation and curriculum. How do we get our ministers involved in this? How do they come to understand it? How do they come to be in the proper situation or context to address it and to teach the young ones as well as their parents when they are forcing them to leave and move out, or those who are in poverty trying to sell their children into all of these kinds of slavery? We have a role to play, and so we should start teaching our ministerial students as they come out, and then the congregations will also catch the vision and we can bring an end to it. We also, as a church, will have to partner with bodies and NGOs and CSOs. As I said, we cannot do it all alone, not at all, as a church. As a church, I belong to an NGO, Global Freedom Network in Ghana. And what we do is we collaborate with them, and when these victims are brought to us, we guide them to the appropriate NGOs that will deal with them. We don't have the authority to arrest, but once we get the information that some children are being trafficked or some children are on board a vehicle and there's a suspicion, we can call the police unit that deals with human trafficking, and they can quickly go in there to look at it, and then if there's any arrest, they can do it. This is where we have to do the partnership, collaborate with agencies that are in there so that we can together help to fight this crime which is with us. And then what we can do best is also to pray. Pray for the victims. Sometimes these victims are left on their own. They are left on their own. How do we even come in to support them? Some come home dejected. Some come home without anything. And so when we see such people, how do we bring them into our fold? How do we help in their orientation? The church has a role. The church has a bigger role to play in here. And if we can do that, it will help all of us. The practical response to human trafficking, there was this conference that sat and then came out with what they call the 7 Ps. And it's what I have put. I have the practical response, the faith leaders, and the Slide 49 gives a summary of what we can do if we could take these 7 P's. And it's coming from one of the conferences that was held by ILO. Prevention. And I believe that if we can prevent it, it's better than to cure. If we can prevent it through the education that we give, through the sensitization that we do, then the protection of the people who are involved. Then we should also help in the prosecution of those who are caught in the act. Those who are caught in the act. Sometimes as faith leaders, we stand in for these traffickers. When they are arrested, they will come and see us, and then we'll go and plead on their behalf. No, don't. Don't allow yourself into that. Then the policies that are made, government policies, global policies that support human trafficking, let us speak to it. Let us stand up in our conferences, at our global meetings. Let us stand up against it. Let us stand up. Then the prayer, then the partnership with others, and then we should also see ourselves participating. Prelate Chair, I would want to pause here and leave the conclusion for maybe the final bit of it. So we have a role. What is our part? The Methodist movement in Africa, seeing this around us, seeing this in us, seeing this going on, have we taken note of it? And what can we do to help these young ones, young girls who are being harassed, abused, and defiled, sometimes defiled, and they lose their dignity. They lose their human dignity. This is slavery, modern slavery. If you come to Ghana, we have the old type, the transatlantic. It's there. We still have it. The castles are there for us to see. Now, we are not seeing the new trends that are coming to us. But we need to wake up. We need to stand up and be the William Wilberforce and then the John Wesleys of the 21st century. Thank you.
Thank you. Bishop Ono, I keep on clapping because this is a serious assignment done. I want to see it as an eye-opener to all of us, especially those of us who are not so closer to this evil that is in the society. And our president have done a great scholarly job, an assignment that must have taken much of his time to put this thing together for us to have it in order for us to discuss it. And I want to see this document as something that has to take us from known to unknown. We have this material, we discuss it, and we move higher to another level where he may not have brought in yet, that some of us may know. You can come in the way you want to come in to make all of us richer. So, our able scholar have done justice, So I want to leave the floor open for us to discuss. Is it better for us to discuss now? I think I can see one of our uncles nodding his head, say yes. So we can set the ball rolling right from page 1. Okay.
Chairman, I just wanted to say we'll be having tea break at 11, so I think we've got about 25 minutes to discuss. I think we have received different papers, theological reflections. It's my proposal, Mr. Chairman said that from these deliberations, they will form our statement, our communique at the end of. So we need to reflect critically on what has been presented here, what was presented before, and we have at least about 25 minutes. I think we can still have other time to look on the key issues that will constitute our communique at the end of the summit. Thank you.
Okay. Permit me to ask this. I do not know whether you have formed a communique committee.
Yes,
That has been-
Reverend Michelle and Reverend Roger, they are capturing everything, and they are also going to give us whatever has been produced. They are the one going to produce the communique at the end, which they will reach to us, and we say this is what we want, or not, then they can even correct.
It's okay. It's okay.